Harley-Davidson began at the start of the 20th century when William S. Harley and Arthur Davison began drawing up designs for motorcycles. The two were good friends who both shared a passion for mechanical engineering. This culminated in 1903 when the two friends produced a prototype machine boasting a 495cc engine capable of speeds up to 45 miles per hour. Harley and Davison continued building motorcycles in a shed in the backyard of the Davison family's house in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, as their joint venture grew larger. By 1907, Harley-Davidson Incorporated had the financial backing of Walter Davison, Arthur's brother, and was gaining fame in the pioneering motorcycle community as their bikes became more and more common at hill climbing and board racing events. 1909 was a significant year for Harley-Davidson, as that was the year that it introduced its first V-twin engine, an engine design layout that it would become famous for. Harley-Davidson motorcycles were bought by the US Army, and a number of Model J motorcycles were used south of the border during the US Army's involvement in the Mexican Revolution. The United States joined the First World War in 1917, and Harley-Davidson supplied 20,000 motorcycles for the war effort. Harley-Davidson production moved to a new factory on Juneau Avenue in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which has since become an iconic landmark for motorcyclists all over the world. The Roaring Twenties brought several new models, such as the W Sport Twin, which had a horizontally opposed twin engine. It didn't sell well, but it was of note due to its then unusual engine layout. 1929 brought the Model D, the first generation of flathead V-twins, an engine design that stuck around for 22 years. 1932 brought the Survey car, a trike intended for use as a workhorse due to its large boot, which was used for storage. 1936 saw one of Harley-Davidson's biggest models, the FL Knucklehead. This design was named so due to the engine's rocker covers resembling the knuckles of a clenched fist. This model would remain in production for 11 years. When America joined the Second World War after the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, Harley-Davidson once again produced bikes for the military. The WLA was a military spec version of the civilian WL model, but it was very popular amongst Allied forces, being used not only by the US Army, but the Canadian Army, the RAF, and a large number was even sent to Soviet Russia to be used by the Red Army. Despite this, it wasn't until after the Second World War that Harley-Davidson truly hit its stride. Its rival, Indian Motorcycles, went bust in 1953, leaving Harley with very little competition. Motorcycles were a cheap and popular way of getting around, and inspired by the likes of Marlon Brando and James Dean, they became a symbol of teenage rebellion and freedom. This led to an increase in sales from teenagers, wanting to emulate their leather-clad idols and ride around on motorcycles. They wanted their bikes to be fast, and that meant any unnecessary weight had to go. Mudguards, saddlebags, and fly screens were discarded as the bobber craze set in. Films like The Wild Angels, and more famously, Easy Rider, highlighted the bobbers and choppers that became popular during the 1960s. During this time, Harley-Davidson bought out Oramachi, an Italian motorcycle manufacturer, and had began making smaller, lightweight bikes. These new bikes were usually single-cylinder machines that were a far cry from the large V-twins the company was famous for. In fact, the only resemblance these bikes had to Harley-Davidson was the badge on the tank. The 1970s were bad for Harley-Davidson. Like their British rivals, Triumph and BSA, they suffered poor sales due to competition from Japanese bike manufacturers like Honda and Yamaha, whose machines were often faster and more reliable than their Western counterparts. This, coupled with a supposed drop in production quality, resulted in a lower number of bikes being built in this time. One model of significance from this time was the 1000cc XLCR. Designed to resemble a cafe racer, a style of bike popularised by British motorcyclists during the 1960s, this bike possessed disc brakes coupled with a new frame design. Unfortunately, this machine did not sell well, becoming a commercial flop for Harley-Davidson. However, the limited production of the XLCR Cafe Racer has made it highly sought after by collectors. In 1986, a new model was released. It was the XLH 883, the new iteration of the Sportster, and it sold well due to its lighter weight and sporty looks. Another bike that sold well due to its looks was the 1993 Heritage Softail, which was aptly named the Nostalgia Glide, since it nearly resembled models from the 1960s, like the Electra Glide. In 2001, Harley-Davidson released the V-Rod, which revolutionized the brand with its water-cooled, fuel-injected 1130cc engine. It stirred up some controversy due to its radical new design, but it quickly grew a following and became one of Harley-Davidson's most popular models. 2002 brought something different for Harley-Davidson. A man named Eric Buell launched the Buell Firebolt XB9R, a sleekly designed street fighter with a 984cc Sportster engine. Harley had owned nearly half of Buell since 1993 and were happy to supply them with their engines so long as they were happy to supply streamlined sports bikes to sell. Unfortunately, Buell ceased to function by 2009 due to Harley-Davidson wanting to focus more on its own brand. Harley-Davidson are still alive and kicking today. Even though they're no longer the world's biggest motorcycle manufacturer, they still have a large cult following, and it's impossible to deny the huge impact their machines have had on motorcycling culture, and they seem to have no intention of stopping.